that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 338th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and the incredible Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. I'm going to start out every one of our editions with an appeal for funds. BCTV needs funding because the Trump administration has decided that it's changing the way that it interprets how the relationship works between public access television and the various media.
Well, he's got to justify his tax cuts.
Somehow, he's getting. But anyway, BCTV needs money as a result of that, and it's asked each of the programs to raise its own a small portion, and I don't know what the portion is, but my sense is it's about 5% of the amount of money that is needed to record and edit that show.
Well, it ain't free.
It ain't free. And so we're appealing to people to go to BrattleBoroTV.org, donate massive amounts of money, and leave a comment saying it's for
That's important.
Energy Week.
It's important.
It is important. And if you can't donate a massive amount of money, a small amount of money is a very nice thing to get also. So
we'll take a massive amount.
We'll take a massive amount, absolutely. This is not something that Tom and I are going to benefit from. It just means that Energy Week can keep going. Oh, shucks. We're not going to take it and go out and buy pizza. And so there we have it. And now I should say, because I should do this every week. Energy Week consists of a set of news items that are picked up from my daily blog called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. And you can go there and you can click on the date that the news item came up and find it among the 10 or 15 items that would be up for that date, and then go read the original article. And Tom has something to say about that because he always does. Put yourself up,
well, let's
Tom.
pull me up so everybody sees what I look like.
Yeah.
Some of these articles, if you call them that, are really comprehensive.
Yeah, they're good.
And there's one of them there. It's too big for us to do on one show if we devoted the whole show to it. So some of these are, as I mentioned, really comprehensive.
They are.
I'll try and call your attention to the ones that I think are worth looking at.
Yes.
And some of them are well worth looking at.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to be starting on the 26th of September, which is a week ago today. We record the show on Thursdays, so we start the previous Thursday.
I think we got some kind of a picture.
We
coming
do.
up
We have
here,
a picture of offshore turbines.
And I think if I do this, it will come up.
There you go.
Bingo.
Those are.
It looks like offshore turbines to me.
An NREL image. Those turbines are not in American waters, but it's the National Renewable Energy Laboratory that put up the photo. Anyway, this is from Renewable Energy Magazine.
It is that, and it's called, and I quote, Dominion Energy plans America's largest offshore wind farm, and by the way, they're expecting it to be operational by 2026.
Yes. Dominion Energy is planning the construction of the single largest offshore wind project in the U.S. waters, consisting of 3 880 megawatt phases. According to the American...
That's significant.
Oh, yeah. According to the American Wind Energy Association, this presents a huge economic opportunity for the state of Virginia because it's in Virginia waters.
It's all of this is happening in Virginia, yeah. They've divvied up the East Coast already.
Right.
Some of it's in Massachusetts, some in Connecticut, some in Maryland, which I think we might mention. Well, I will mention it.
There you go.
Well, these 3 farms, together with what's there or being built right now, totals 5.5 gigawatts. So they're making significant progress in generating electricity off the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned on a show, because I've seen this before, there is more than enough opportunity to generate energy off the East Coast Atlantic Shelf than we need for the entire country.
Yes.
I mean, what we're talking about is only a drop in the bucket here,
yes,
compared to what's potential.
The United States could be powered by those offshore wind projects. As you said, there's more than enough power there to power the United States.
It's likely that it will happen just for economic reasons.
Absolutely.
You know, because the cost of fossil fuels is going higher. Mm-hmm. It's only going to go higher. And the cost of renewables is going lower, and it's only going to go lower.
There was an article that appeared in the news today where they were talking about the problems that.
How did that happen?
Well, I bumped a key here. The problems that will develop in Australia because the amount of energy on the grid, which was a lot of the energy in this particular instance, was from coal burning power plants, but they couldn't reduce the amount that they were putting on. So the spot price of energy on I think it was the Queensland grid went to negative $1,000 per megawatt hour.
So they were paying you a lot of money to take the energy.
Negative $1 per kilowatt hour. And, you know, it's an Australian dollar, so it's 75 US cents.
Yeah.
But nevertheless...
The more power you use, the bigger the check you get.
Yeah, and what was happening was the Guardian was saying, this is not the disaster that it sounds like. It's something else.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, that's going to be something we may talk about next week.
Well, I'll mention a couple of things here. I'm going to put me up so they see what I look like.
You want me to put that
back
up?
Huh?
You want me to put that old photograph back up? This is not responding. Yeah, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Yeah, America's first offshore wind farm, the 30-megawatt Block Island wind farm. 30 megawatts is nothing.
Well, compared to these things, yeah.
Off the coast of Rhode Island, came online in 2016. Now, Dominion Energy, these guys, recently began construction on a 12-megawatt coastal Virginia offshore wind project off of Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
This is really a pilot project, but it's small.
Yes.
Okay? But they're getting in there big. Now, Ørsted, that we talked about, has been awarded the rights to build offshore wind farms to serve the markets of Maryland, New Jersey, Rhode Island, New York, and Connecticut. And these wind farms will have a total capacity of nearly 3 gigawatts. And they're to be commissioned by 2024. So they started late developing this, but they're moving quick to catch up.
Yeah.
In the United States, right, exactly.
The technology has already been developed in Europe. And
the Brits have been doing it for years and have been doing it very well, as you know, as you watch this show.
And I should mention, by the way, that a gigawatt of offshore wind power is not the same as a gigawatt of nuclear power, because nuclear plants tend to run about 90% of the time, or 92% of the time, or something like that in the United States. Offshore wind power has a capacity factor that may be above 50%, but probably is not.
Depends on where you are and what time of year it is. And
so offshore wind power, you know, that you have.
The wind doesn't always blow.
Yeah, and then for offshore wind, it's about a gigawatt is about half, perhaps, of what a gigawatt of nuclear capacity is. Just so people understand why there's that difference. But
well, we got another one coming up here, and it's on the same subject, but at a different location.
And it doesn't have a photo.
Well, we can live with that.
That one that we just talked about was Renewable Energy Magazine. This one is from CNN.
CNN usually has a good website, by the way. If we say it's CNN, usually you can find it's pretty good. In this particular case, there's a very interesting 4.5-minute video.
Yep.
Okay, and it's how to build offshore wind.
Yeah.
And it shows you the training these guys go through and all that. A very interesting video.
Yep. This, you have a title for this.
World's largest offshore wind farm is nearly complete. it can power 1 million homes.
Now that'll tell you something about how small the 32 megawatts that we have in the United States is, because that is not going to power.
No, this is a significant farm.
This is huge. The world's largest offshore wind farm is taking shape 120 kilometers, or 75 miles, off England's Yorkshire coast. Hornsea 1 will produce enough energy to supply 1 million UK homes with clean energy when it is completed in 2020.
Well, Yorkshire, for what it's worth, is northeastern England. It's
Yeah.
almost in Scotland.
Almost.
Okay, and this is off that coast. And it's pretty far out to sea.
Yeah. And they have a Yorkshire dialect, by the way, which is absolutely incomprehensible to people.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. In fact, it's more like Norwegian than it is like
Is
English.
that so?
Yeah.
Well, they're saying here Hornsea 2. They're talking about Hornsea 1
Yes.
in this article. Hornsea 2 is already under construction.
Yes.
Okay, and has the potential to meet the electricity needs of up to 1.6 million homes.
So we're
it's gonna be
talking about
bigger
a
than
lot
that.
of, well, these two projects.
Well, they're
that's
talking about Hornsea 3.
Yeah, I know. These two projects would power Scotland, I think.
It probably would.
So, it's not that the Scots need
But between
power
the three
from,
of these Hornseas, they're talking 5 million homes.
Yes,
That's a lot.
that's a lot. And in the meantime, Scotland is also producing power, which is shipping
Which
to
they
England.
are, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's read what I got to take away here.
Okay.
The 1.2 gigawatt project spans an area of 10 square miles.
Right.
This is pretty big. It consists of 174 wind turbines, which are each 7 megawatts.
These
So
are
they're-
big wind turbines.
They're significant. They're not
Yeah.
the biggest, but
they're
they're
not
up
the
there.
biggest, but they're up there.
They're
Yeah.
each 300 feet tall, so these are the big guys.
Yes.
Okay. Hornsea 1, the blades will have a circumference of 250 feet. Okay. Just a single rotation of one of the turbines can power an average home for a day.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
And Hornsea 1 will generate nearly twice the power of Ørsted's Watney extension, which we've talked about on the show. Currently the largest offshore farm in the world.
Right.
Which is located in the Irish
Well,
Sea.
this is a gigantic project.
This is big.
Yeah.
And we got a picture coming up here. Let's
We
get
do.
that picture up.
There it is.
No, that's not it.
That's it.
There it is. There it is. You got any idea what kind of fish they are?
You know what they look like? They look like very young tuna to me. But I don't think they are, though.
They're pretty young because there's a hand in that picture.
Yeah, there sure is. But, you know, I'm not an expert on fish.
No, they're definitely saltwater
I
fish,
can
but I don't know what
tell
they
you
are.
that they're not brook trout.
No, definitely not.
And this is from CNN.
It is that. It's from CNN, and it says, landmark UN report warns sea levels will rise faster than projected by 2100. This is a good article, by the way.
Yeah.
Very
Cities
good
from New
article.
York to Shanghai could see regular flooding as sea levels rise faster than previously expected. Glaciers and ice sheets from the Himalayas to the Antarctic are rapidly melting, and the fisheries that feed millions of people are shrinking. This is not good news. In fact, I would have to say that it's really bad news. Climate change is happening much, much faster than the scientists expected it would. It looks to me like it might be pretty close to their worst case scenarios.
Well, this is a good article, and it starts with an angry Greta, which I think we've already
Angry
seen.
Greta. Well, I'm laughing at the idea of an angry Greta, but the reason I'm laughing is because Greta's angry a lot.
Well, she's got a right to be, really.
She does. So does any other person who's under 50.
Interesting thing about Greta, they're starting now to try to dishonor her, I say, try to bring her down.
Yeah,
That's an indication that she's effective.
yeah. I
If she
guess.
wasn't doing
Well,
anything, they wouldn't bother.
I called a person I went to college with my freshman year.
Yeah.
And I hadn't talked with her for 53 years or something like that. And we chatted a little bit. And I mentioned Greta Thunberg. She had never heard of Greta Thunberg.
No kidding.
And a lot of people haven't. And I said, here is a girl who has been an activist for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. She is 16 years old. She's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. The odds makers are making her a really heavy favorite to get that prize. And when she called for a worldwide strike, school strike, 4.5 million people were involved. This is a woman a young woman. She looks like she's 11, and she is a young woman, and she may be one of the most powerful women on the planet in terms of what she can get.
In terms of what she's accomplishing. There's an article that I read, I think we're going to talk about it, where she's the leader of the United States, not Trump.
I don't think we are quite going to say
I read that one. I don't know if we're going to talk about it.
I have got to tell you, I think I've mentioned it a bunch of times. I feel like writing an article for Green Energy Times or something that has two photographs, one of which is Greta Thunberg with a caption, Greta Thunberg, world leader, and the other is Donald Trump with a thing that
somebody
says,
wrote that article already.
Donald Trump, not world leader. And yeah, somebody beat me to it. But
well, did I read the article, the name of the article already? I don't think I did.
I don't think so.
Landmark UN report warns sea levels will rise faster than projected by 2100.
You did read it, and I read the little blurb afterwards. I think we should go on our...
Well, there's an interesting thing. There's last week.
Yeah.
This is what, Thursday?
Yes.
Monday's weather report. In Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, up to 2 feet of snow.
Wow.
And in the southeast, Florida, Alabama, landmark highs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was yesterday that I saw that the temperature in Chattanooga hit 100 degrees.
Chattanooga.
Yeah.
100 degrees. Wow.
100 degrees.
Wow.
I might be wrong about that, but anyway, we're up to Friday, September 27th, with a piece from NBCnews.com.
Yes, we do.
This is good.
Latin America pledges 70% renewable energy, surpassing the European Union.
At the United Nations Climate Action Summit, Latin American countries have set a collective target of 70% renewable energy by 2030, more than double what the EU plans. Colombia's energy minister was the person who pointed this out. Her country has a renewable tender scheduled for October. Now, this is big, but looking at the action on renewable energy, there has been incredible activity in Chile. There is
all through South America.
All through South America, and Brazil is powered. Their vehicles are powered mostly
by alcohol.
Yeah. Ethanol that they get from various sources. I think it's is it Paraguay where they get I think it's Paraguay. They generate 1,000% of the energy of the electrical power they need from renewables. Yeah, it's hydro, and it's been there for a long time. But they are, Nicaragua. Is it Nicaragua? Costa Rica. Costa Rica is operating at very close to 100%. So, these people have got their act together.
Well, they're doing it for economic reasons.
They are.
Well, the plan, by the way, is to put Latin America in leadership roles ahead of the UN Climate Change Summit, which is going to take place in South America, in Chile, in December.
Yes.
So they're getting ready.
They are.
Okay, and good for them.
Good for them.
Okay,
now we have a picture of a western meadowlark.
Oh.
And you can blame that picture on Matthew Pendleton of of Cornell University.
I love birds. I mean, my mother loves birds, and I was growing up loving birds. I can actually remember, I couldn't read.
Yeah.
But I had a bird book.
Yes.
And I could identify every bird in that bird book.
Yeah.
Well, birds are dying. I'll put the bird up again. Birds are dying off at an alarming rate, which is very scary.
Yes.
Here's how you can help from your own backyard.
And alarming studies.
It gives you a number of reasons which we don't have time to really talk about.
An alarming study says that since 1970, the U.S. and Canada have lost almost a third of their bird population. Habitat loss, collisions with glass, hunting by cats, and pesticides.
Which is scary.
Yeah, are the biggest threats.
Even well-fed cats will kill birds.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we know cats kill just for the fun of it a lot of the time.
Well, it's instinctive.
It's an instinctive thing. That's what they do. And then they take whatever they've killed and put it someplace. a lot of the time. We had a cat.
Sometimes it's a strange place, like one of your shoes.
I lived in Massachusetts in a place where I was 100 yards from a wildlife refuge, and the wildlife refuge, by its nature, there was no hunting in there, and it was overrun by rabbits. And I had a cat that would go to the wildlife refuge, kill a rabbit, bring it back, and put it under my son's window. Okay. Hunting by cats, pesticides are big threats, and this is according to the American Birding Conservatory.
Well, as I was saying, it really bothers me because I love birds.
Well,
I read this same article. Before I read this, under a different name, it was called 3 Billion Canaries in the Coal Mine.
Oh, wow.
And it's virtually the same article.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's very scary.
Well, this is a problem that we've actually talked about before.
Well, let me talk about a few ways you can help.
Yes,
okay, that's what the article said.
Yeah, that's what people need to know.
Prevent birds from ramming into your windows using decals and screens. Okay?
Yes.
Simple. Keep cats indoors.
Yeah, keep cats indoors. It's better for the cat, but it's much better for the birds.
Absolutely. Make birds more welcome in your yard, and there's several ways to do that. Plant native shrubs. Native shrubs. Avoid pesticides. Duh. Take down dead trees and limbs. Don't take down dead, because that's where the birds.
A lot of birds
nest in them.
They nest in those
and
things.
Put up bird feeders.
Yeah. Okay. We have an article coming up from Renew Economy.
Yes, we do. What am I going to do here? I'm going to put us both up, I guess.
There you go.
Macquarie reveals 5-year plan for massive involvement in 20 gigawatt renewables.
Australian-based Macquarie Group has announced plans to develop a massive portfolio of clean energy projects with a goal of investing in 20 gigawatts of new projects across the globe. This is worldwide, and it will be channeled through a subsidiary called Green Investment Group. Now, this 20 gigawatts is probably the equivalent of about, I'm going to say probably about 5 nuclear power plants the size of Vermont Yankee, maybe more.
That's about right.
This is a lot of power. This is enough to power a couple of U.S. states.
Well, what's going on here? Macquarie is an investment firm.
Right.
You invest in Macquarie. Macquarie takes your money and invests in other stuff.
Yep.
And in this particular case, they're investing in the Green Investment Group,
right,
which was started by the UK government, but which these guys have bought.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're investing, you've got money to invest, this is a good outfit to do it.
This is a place you could do it, although there are plenty of investments that you can make that are in the United States or local to Vermont or New Hampshire or wherever it is that you live. Okay, we are up to Saturday, September 28th. We have a picture which is called Barrier Island Creation. And
well, that's a picture of Louisiana.
It's the coast of Louisiana.
And as we've talked about on the show, they're losing land big time there. Particularly western Louisiana, the west coast. And that's what this is, and they're trying to save that land.
Well, I don't know how in the world they're going to do that. I mean, there are places that are 30 miles inland that are 7 feet above sea level. How are you going to protect that?
Certainly you don't have a clue from that picture.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
Is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there it is. There it
is.
is. I'm trying to find it in my notes.
Yeah.
Oil company agrees to pay up to $100 million to restore the Louisiana coastline. They feeling guilty or something?
I don't know. No, actually, like this. Well, let me read this. An agreement between Freeport McMoran, a company that specializes in drilling for oil in the Gulf of Mexico, and 12 coastal communities in Louisiana may set a precedent. The company agreed to pay up to $100 million to restore the Louisiana coastline. And I got to tell you, Tom, I don't believe for a minute that they can do anything, regardless of how much money they put in, to restore that coastline. I just don't believe it.
Well, we've talked about that, and you could very well be right. There's a lot of people living down there that have been moving inland, and then they move again.
Yes.
And if you look at that picture, they're not going to be able to move very much longer.
Yeah.
Well, Mick Moran Freeport McMoran is a small drilling company.
Yeah.
They're hoping that this will serve as a wake-up call to the big guys.
Yes.
And this is from the article. Louisiana loses a football field-sized chunk of its coastline to the sea every 2 hours. Okay. So the sea is encroaching.
Yeah.
Since 1930, more than 2,000 square miles of the state has been claimed by the Gulf of Mexico. That's about twice the size of Rhode Island.
So what are they going to do? What they have to do is
they're going to move.
They're going to move. And I just don't see what the choice is. Throwing $100 million into trying to restore that coastline is like throwing money into
it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah,
It's
it
nowhere
really
near
is.
enough money.
No, and I don't think there is enough money to restore that coastline.
It probably isn't.
If they want to have a good coastline for Louisiana, the thing to do is to move about 20 miles inland and start building sandbars there. Because I don't think they can do it.
I don't think you can do that in most of that land.
Okay, we have an item here from the BBC, and I want to say this didn't. There was no search that I did for renewable energy or climate change or anything like that led me to this particular story. This was one of the things that came up.
It's a good article.
Because
it's a long article.
Yeah,
very long article.
I was just looking through the regular news, which is something I do every day, and this came up there. So what do you got for a title?
Well, this is interesting. The 3.5% rule.
Yeah.
How a small minority can change the world.
Yes, and
Very
this was, I
interesting
read this
concept.
and I thought to myself, wow. Okay, Erica Chenoweth, a political scientist at Harvard University, has shown that it takes around 3.5% of the population to be participating actively in protests to ensure serious political change. She showed civil disobedience is the most powerful way to shape world politics. And what she did here was she looked at a whole bunch of protest movements.
Yep.
And she found that in every single case, if 3.5% of the population was engaged,
It won.
It won.
Yeah.
In every single
And
case.
that's not a big percent.
Well,
In that case, maybe it is, but I mean, it sounds small.
I mean, if you think about it, that would mean for the United States, it would be upwards of 10 million people.
Well, the quick takeaway from here is just duplicates what you said.
Yeah.
Nonviolent protests are twice as likely to succeed as armed conflicts.
Yes.
They led to political change 53% of the time compared to 26% for violent protests.
Wow.
And those engaging this is the important one. Those engaging a threshold of 3.5% of the population have never failed to bring about change.
What's
Wow.
that all about? Really? Okay. Now that is nonviolent, and it makes me wonder what would have happened in 1917 if the Russians had a nonviolent revolution and it stayed nonviolent. I wonder.
Good question. Good question.
Okay, we have an item coming up from CNN.
And we got a picture, don't we?
We have a picture. This is a picture of what's called sunny day flooding. And this is a site that in some parts of the United States comes along every 2 weeks.
Comes along. Yeah, we've talked about that on the show, especially in Miami, which was where this picture was taken.
Okay.
Climate change is raising quite the stink in Florida. They mean that literally.
They mean it literally. In addition to other problems, sunny day flooding that comes with rising sea levels threatens to overwhelm septic systems, leading to health issues. Dade County is where Miami is. A Dade County report estimates that it will take more than $3.3 billion to build water treatment facilities that to provide sewer hookups for the people who have septic systems in that county. And the reason is because of climate change induced
Well, I'll mention that.
rising seas.
This is from CNN, and like CNN, it's usually a pretty good site to visit.
Yeah.
There's a 4-minute video there.
Yes.
Okay, and this is from the article. You flush your toilet. The waste fills a tank. Bacteria breaks it down. The effluent goes underground and gets released into the soil. The higher water table is eating away at that soil. Okay, everything floats downhill. And if there's no more downhill, it just isn't going to work.
Yeah.
contamination becomes a real possibility.
The
That's what this is all about.
these tanks are winding up being underwater.
And
They
they're
don't
just
work
not working.
underwater.
Right.
And you know they have leaching fields, and the waste goes out of the tanks into the leaching fields. Well, if the leaching fields are underwater, then the effluent winds up just being in the
It's percolating up to the surface.
and it's getting into people's drink wells that they
Yep,
drink from.
yeah.
It means that
It's a
they
big
have
problem.
a big problem.
And it's not a problem they can resolve easily just because of the nature of the land.
Well, you know, there are ways that they can deal with this that don't involve huge numbers of sewer hookups. And I think having biodigesters in Florida makes a lot of sense. They could save a lot of money by
Well,
putting it in.
basically a septic tank is a biodigester.
Yeah, but they can have a
You're talking
biodigester, real biodigester
that are sitting on the surface.
that's sitting on the surface.
Yeah.
And yes, that would involve some changes, but you know. Okay, we're up to Sunday, the 29th of September, and we have an item in here from Bloomberg.
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg is a difficult place for me to deal with because
Is it really?
Well, they allow me 2 articles a month. So,
Oh,
you know,
so you got to pay. They don't want.
they have a paywall. And when I'm doing these things, you know, I'll look at a site, and then a lot of times I say to myself, oh, I don't know that a person going to my blog can actually load this. So what I have to do is
search.
try it on a different
Yeah.
computer.
Uh-huh.
Well, there are ways of tricking things into thinking that you're on, even though you're on the same computer, that you've gone to a different computer. But they know that you've done this.
Or sometimes you can search for the same item under a different. Well,
Yeah,
just
but
do a search for
you
the same
can do
item,
that, but-
and it comes up.
You know,
Well-
what I do is I do my stuff at home on a Raspberry Pi, and
Yeah.
then what I do is I put the thing at the blog, but I have an edit window open. Then what happens is I go use this computer and I go onto the blog, and from that computer, and then I am physically at a different computer. But that only gets 2 views a month.
Uh-huh.
And then I can go to this computer, because these 2 computers are mine. And, you know, if I run out there, well, I do have another Raspberry Pi I can use. But it's not easy to get, and sometimes I put things up that don't work, as you know. Anyway, why Vladimir Putin believes in global warming? Well,
I'm supposed to say that.
I think you already did, didn't you?
I don't think so.
Well, you can say it again if you want.
Well, no sense in repeating you. Now,
Okay.
you got something else to say about
I
that.
do. Some Russians have been seeing climate change as a good thing, with new opportunities for commerce, shipping, exploration for petroleum sources. But the melting of permafrost poses a huge threat to Russia's heartlands, and the thawing ground cannot bear the weight of the infrastructure.
That's interesting. We've talked about that.
We have talked about it before. The
In
infrastructure.
Canada, I think, northern Canada, buildings are collapsing.
Well, the Russians
What
are
was it?
worrying.
Spitsbergen.
Spitsbergen.
Yeah, we did something on that.
And we've actually talked about a huge sinkhole in Siberia that just, you know, it's like 300 yards across or something. And what happens if those appear in cities? Well, I got news for you. They're going to.
Yeah.
Because the melting permafrost is going to
Won't
happen
support the city.
and it won't, because the foundations are sitting on the ice and the permafrost.
Yeah.
Now in this article, they're talking almost entirely about oil infrastructure.
They are.
And,
But it covers much more than that.
Yeah.
And this is what they're saying about it. Some of Russia's largest oil and gas fields are at risk, and it may be too late to avoid much of the permafrost
I
loss.
got news for you. It is too late.
Doing nothing would see even more problems for Russia's oil and gas producers.
Well, the Russians have started building oil drilling rigs and production rigs that take melting permafrost into account.
So they sort of float, huh?
They kind of float. And, you know, I mean, this is insanity. You have climate change going on because of the oil that you're using. The climate change is making it impossible for you to use existing infrastructure to go after your oil. So what do? Instead of saying, hey, we should stop using oil, they say, oh, we're going to build oil rigs that can do this even if the permafrost melts.
Sounds like the wrong solution to a problem.
Boy, does it ever.
Okay.
Okay, we've got an item now from the New Hampshire Public Radio.
Yeah, coming back home, and we got a nice picture here.
We have an interesting picture. I looked at that picture and I said,
Why don't I get
is
the
that
picture up?
really New Hampshire or is that Glastonbury, England with a bunch of druids?
Well, what the article says is dozens arrested at a protest outside New England's largest coal power plant in Bow, New Hampshire.
Nearly 70 people were arrested during a protest at a coal-fired power plant in Bow on Saturday. The activists had marched onto the grounds of the Merrimack Station, the largest coal-burning facility left in New England, and that is not set to retire.
Well, they're getting scared because what the article says is state police wearing riot gear, which they didn't need, began to detain the protesters, binding their hands with zip ties before transporting them off-site to face Class B misdemeanor charges for criminal trespassing on posted property.
We're going to have another story about that in this. It's not about Bow, it's about a different operation, but it's police arresting that girl at the end of this thing. We have a picture for her,
Yeah, we
too.
got that, yep.
And it is disturbing what's going on here.
Well, they don't like protesters. And they're trying to let them know that protesting is not a good thing.
Yeah.
And they're really infringing on people's constitutional rights.
Yes, they are.
If money is speech, certainly walking like you see in that picture, I'm going to bring it up again, is speech.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, our next item is from Truth Out. We're still on Sunday, September 29th.
Big banks are shifting mortgages made riskier by climate change onto taxpayers. Oh, they wouldn't do a thing like that.
New research first reported in the New York Times suggests banks are shifting mortgages made riskier by the climate emergency over to financial institutions backed by U.S. taxpayers, a finding that echoes the subprime lending crisis of 2008. I told you, Tom, about the research that I did on flood insurance premiums.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Between
More than once.
1977 and 2015, because of inflation, increased population, increased value of property relative to the dollar, I calculated that the cost of flood insurance premiums should have gone up by a factor of 5.5, but it didn't. It went up by a factor of 47.
Yes,
and
it's quite scary.
Right, the last time I looked, the flood insurance program was $22 billion in arrears. Now, what's supposed to happen is flood insurance premiums are supposed to go up to cover those costs, but they aren't doing it as fast as they need to. And what this tells me, and also, by the way, flood insurance is guaranteed by the federal government, but the Flood Insurance Reform Act of 2003 says if you have flood insurance and you make 2 claims in excess of $1,000
You don't have
over
flood
a
insurance anymore.
10-year period, the government no longer backs it. And if you have filed flood insurance claim and you've got a property with a mortgage, and the mortgage requires flood insurance,
You're going to lose the property.
you've got a situation where if you have a disaster, you've got a choice of filing the claim and getting the money to cover the costs,
And
or
losing your
bearing
insurance.
it yourself. And if you file the claim,
You lose it.
you will very likely lose your ability to insure the property, and the bank will come to you and say, we're foreclosing on this property.
Well, the backstory here is a lot of the mortgages that these banks are shifting
Yeah.
are in risky areas.
Yes.
Particularly likely to lose because of the rising ocean.
Yes.
They're shorefront properties and stuff like that. By the way, the poor people don't live in shorefront properties.
Well, they're going to. We're going to have poor people from Little Haiti in Miami moving into Mar-a-Lago because people in the shorefront properties are moving into Little Haiti, which is 7 feet higher. This is we're in crazy times.
Well,
here.
what the mechanism here is that the lenders are increasing their share of mortgages that they sell to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Right.
which are also mortgaging companies designed basically to help low-income homeowners.
Right.
Okay, and Fannie and Freddie don't add the added risk from natural disasters into their pricing. So if you've got a risky shorefront property or something like that, the bank is going to off it to Fannie and Freddie.
Yes.
And Fannie and Freddie have government subsidies.
Yes. Okay.
Let's move up to September 30th, which
Yes,
is Monday.
indeed.
It's coming
We have
up.
about
We got
20 minutes for 9 items, so we have to expedite
We're doing
this.
okay.
Lobster fishing,
We got
you
a
want to
picture
see.
coming
There
up
you go.
here.
This is from Clean Technica.
And they look like lobster fishermen to me.
Yep.
Can a carbon fee save the world's ocean? Senator Whitehouse says yes.
Climate change is altering the oceans, and CO2 is changing their chemistry. In an exclusive comment for Clean Technica, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of White House, who is a Democrat from Rhode Island, says a carbon fee is the best method to limit emissions and mitigate ocean quality loss. I happen to disagree with him. I don't think he's going to be able to save the lobstering in Rhode Island, for example, by a carbon fee.
Well, he's got to get the message to the lobsters, and they're the ones that are migrating now.
Yeah, I guess.
They're moving into Canada.
Yeah, they will move to Canada, but the ones who are stuck south of, I mean, lobsters are not actually going to migrate. What they're going to do is die, and they're young.
Well, yeah,
grow up in different
individual
places.
lobsters aren't going to migrate, but the lobster
Population.
population will be migrating. Just
Yes.
like we say maple trees are migrating into Canada.
Yes.
They're not moving the trees.
No. Okay, our next item is from Newsweek.
It is that. California Governor Newsom and Michael Bloomberg announced a plan to use a satellite to track climate change.
Governor Gavin Newsom of California and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg announced a new initiative that will use satellite data from Earth imaging company Planet to monitor climate change in California. They're not going to put up satellites for this. They're going to use the satellites
renting
that
them
are
or
there.
hiring them or something.
They're,
like that.
I think they're just getting information from Planet to the company.
Well, they're getting more accurate information,
Yeah.
and they're going to use that to hopefully reduce total emissions and carbon footprint.
Yes. We have an item from Clean Technica.
And we got a picture coming up.
We
too.
do, and this is the interior of a very clean factory.
Yeah, that is the, I can't even pronounce it, Hanwha facility. Q-Cells, that's the name of their, well, I'll tell you what Q-Cells are in a second.
Yeah.
Q-Cells dedicates its largest solar panel factory in Western Hemisphere.
And what's Q-Cells?
Q-Cells is the product brand of Hanwha Q-Cells,
Oh, okay.
which is a Fortune 500 company and one of the largest photovoltaic manufacturers in the world. So Q-Cells is what they call their solar panels. So they're going to be making solar panels here.
Yeah. Hanwha Q-Cells opened a 300,000 square foot solar panel factory in Dalton, Georgia. The $200 million factory employs more than 650 workers and is capable of producing 12,000 solar panels a year, enough to generate 1.7 gigawatts of electricity.
By the way, you mentioned Chattanooga earlier.
Yes,
Dalton, Georgia is right near Chattanooga.
right near Chattanooga. Yeah.
Well, I said Q-Cells. There are currently 3 other solar panel facilities in operation or under construction in the U.S.
Only 3.
Only 3. One of them's LG's got a factory in Alabama, which I think is working now. Jinko Solar's in Florida. I don't think that's up yet. And First Solar's production line in Ohio. All of the solar cells used by these 3 are manufactured outside of the U.S. So they're just putting together the panels. They're still importing the photocells from China.
Yeah.
Okay, the total input of all of 4 factories will be about 5 gigawatts, while the U.S. is on pace to install 12 gigawatts of solar power next year. So this is really a drop in the bucket.
It is. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, October 1st, with an item from Clean Technica.
Yeah, we do. Saudi Crown Prince, let's get let's up here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Saudi Crown Prince warns of threat to global oil supply.
Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman
Solomon, yeah, which
Yeah.
means Solomon.
Yeah.
Solomon.
Yeah, told the BBC that if Iran and Saudi Arabia go to war, oil prices could rise up to, quote, unimaginably
Yeah,
high
that's
prices,
true.
end quote. Yes, well, that's what I would expect. He says this is possible if the world doesn't try to deter Iran, and that escalation will threaten world interests. Now,
Well, he's sort of right there, but they also have to deter him.
I was going to say exactly that. It has to deter two parties here.
Yep.
One is Iran, and the other is Saudi Arabia under this crown prince. And, you know, they're both,
Well, there's two major sects in Islam,
yeah,
Shia and Sunni.
yes,
And the Shias are kind of fundamentalists, and the Sunnis are more elaborate with well, like bishops and archbishops.
Well,
They
but
got a hierarchy.
they have a
These
hierarchy.
guys hate each other,
Yeah.
and have since the death of Muhammad.
yes.
Okay.
Actually, a couple of years after Muhammad's death, but nevertheless.
A small generation after he
Yeah,
died.
and
It was about who was going to run Islam.
yeah.
His lineal descendants, or supposedly the best qualified clerics that they had.
Yeah.
And they've been fighting for that 1,300
Well,
years.
they have other issues. They have.
Yeah, they have other issues.
But, you know,
this is basically the biggest issue.
Yeah, it is not as bad, I think, as the Byzantine Empire, where the big thing that caused friction was the question of what color were the horse race liveries going to be. It was
never heard that
the
one.
blues and the greens. They hated each other, and it
Oh,
all
well.
went back to what color was
I
the
don't
livery.
remember that one.
Oh, people argue over the stupidest things, but here, you know, this is.
Well, it's interesting. Saudi Arabia has some of the greatest military equipment money can buy.
Yep.
But its military is still not seen as a threat to its longtime rival because they don't know how to use it.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got this wonderful equipment and they can't use it. That's a fact.
Okay, we've got another item from
And we
Clean
got a picture
Technica.
coming up, so let's
We have
start
a
with the
picture of Arctic ice. I happen to like this Arctic ice picture better than many others, but nevertheless, there it is.
Well, it's a long article, and it is entitled "A Formula for Catastrophe in the Arctic."
And we were talking about Vladimir Putin and the
Yep.
Russians coming to understand that there was a problem with climate change. Maybe the White House could come to understand the same thing here. The White House views the Arctic as a key arena for great power competition, with the ultimate prize being a treasure trove of resources, including oil, natural gas, uranium, zinc, iron ore, gold, diamonds, and rare earth minerals. It is possible this is being developed because of climate change. It will make climate change worse. So,
Well, the takeaway from here, unless humanity converts to alternative fuels, the Arctic may become the world's primary source of fossil fuels. The Trump administration welcomes the prospect.
well, I find it dismal. Okay,
It's a heads I lose, tails you win situation.
Yeah, it is for everybody except, actually, it's heads I lose, tails you win, for everybody, including Donald Trump.
For everybody.
For everybody. Okay, we've got an item from NBC Palm Springs.
This is an interesting article.
Yes.
Renewable energy will provide discount to thousands.
Imperial Irrigation District and Citizens Energy Corporation just completed the largest low-income solar project in the country. There are more than 100,000 solar panels in the solar array in Calipatria, California. It will generate 30 megawatts of power and serve over 12,000 customers.
There's a 2-minute video,
Yes?
and anyone enrolled in the utility's low-income assistance program will be automatically enrolled.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to do anything.
It's really interesting.
It's an interesting article. It's a worthwhile thing to do. And by the way, Imperial Irrigation District is the local electrical utility.
Right. So we're up to Wednesday, October 2nd, and we have a picture coming up, which is already there, Tom. You don't have to do a thing. And this is from the Environmental Working Group.
No, it's not. It's up there, but it's up there in the background.
Ah, okay.
Feds seek to gut law boosting small-scale renewables. Why would they do that?
Since 1978, the Public Utilities Regulatory Act has boosted renewables by requiring big utilities to buy some power from small solar and wind companies. Now, the federal regulators are proposing changes that would hurt both the smaller companies and consumers.
Well, these prices are usually cheaper than the rates charged to residential customers by the big utilities.
Yep.
Okay, and the PURPA Act, that's what it's called,
Yeah.
requires the utilities to pass these lower costs on to ratepayers. Okay, and the utilities aren't happy with that. The proposal would effectively gut the law, swaying it to benefit the big utilities rather than small producers and ratepayers.
You know, this is
So this is another game they're playing.
there was an article today about the big utilities and small utilities too, and the oil industry. And they're getting into a situation where the big utilities are coming under attack by the oil industry because the big utilities are putting together infrastructure to support electric vehicles, and the oil industry doesn't like that.
Well, they better get used to it because it's coming, guys.
Well, yeah, but you know the thing is, here the federal government, which is under Donald Trump and a Republican Senate, and it used to be a Republican House, they were operating on a principle that says you don't interfere with the market. Mm-hmm. And what are they doing? They're interfering with the market. And they're interfering, not only are they interfering with the market, but they're betting on a horse in the market that is going to lose.
Now, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Well, let's move along here.
Okay, we've got an item from Clean Technica, and Elizabeth Warren is very much the center.
Elizabeth Warren's climate plan is much stronger with addition of Inslee-related commitments. And Inslee was a guy who was running for president as a Democrat, and he decided to quit because he didn't have the support.
He didn't have the support.
Didn't have the money, really.
Actually, I was thinking that he was one of
He was making some sense, but...
he was one of the better people out there. Elizabeth Warren announced changes to her climate plan inspired by elements of Jay Inslee's, possibly a gold standard. Warren is nearly tied with Biden in key states and could turn out to be the Democratic candidate in 2020. And by the way, did you hear that Bernie Sanders stopped campaigning for at least a few days because
well, I did, yeah.
chest pains?
I could comment on that. He had an obstructed coronary artery.
Right.
And that happened to me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk a block without stopping to rest.
Okay.
And they put in stints. I got 4 of them.
Uh-huh.
He only got 2.
Okay.
And I'm doing fine now.
Well, this is, you know, it's a little different than things were when we were in our toddling years, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of open heart surgery just filled
Well,
me with terror.
these stents don't require open heart
I know,
surgery.
they're
In my case, they inserted it through a vein in my groin.
Ah,
And nowadays, they're using it through a vein in your wrist.
how about that?
Yeah, they just go up there and put these things in, and they're sort of like Chinese finger puzzle things.
Yes, I know.
And they
I've
pop
seen them.
open.
But we should look at this.
This is a very long article.
And it's a good article.
It's an excellent article.
Yeah.
If we devoted this article to our show,
a program.
it would take 2 shows.
Yeah, this is a big deal. And you know, the things that they're talking about are the goal here is to have the United States basically be fossil fuel free very, very quickly. And I think that's what we need to do in order to deal with climate change.
Well, I think so too. Now, Clean Technica assessed what the Democratic wannabes,
Yeah,
they've all presented their plan,
Yeah.
their energy plan. And this is what Clean Technica says about them. Biden's plan, meh.
yeah,
Sanders' plan is great on electricity, but it's car-centric and authoritarian. Harris's plan is excellent. Kamala Harris?
Yes.
Yeah. Yang's plan, which is good on carbon fee. He's the one promoting the carbon fee.
yeah.
It's bad on energy. And Warren's plan spreads addressing climate change across different planks of her platform. And It's wonky, somewhat hard to sell, but solid. So-
It's a pretty good plan, I think.
And they
at this
spend
point.
a lot of time talking about this
Right.
plan,
Right.
and they go into it in detail.
It's worth
It's
looking at.
worth looking up. It's going to take you all day if you read the whole damn thing.
Yeah. Okay, we've got an item
Yeah, we
here.
got to move
Whoops.
along here. We got a picture coming
We have
up.
a picture
Let's
of
get her
Dea
up first.
Schlossberg. And this is interesting because Dea is a Spanish name, and Schlossberg is not a Spanish name. How do you do that?
Only in America.
It can happen elsewhere, but it happens most often in America. This is from Clean Technica.
The Koch brothers and protests in America.
Documentary filmmaker and journalist Dea Schlossberg was arrested and charged with felonies for carrying that carry a maximum sentence of up to 45 years in prison
That's scary.
for reporting on indigenous protests against fossil fuel infrastructure. This is according to Common Dreams.
So if you talk about what the government is doing, they're going to throw you in jail for 20
Well,
years.
I want you to look at no, leave that up. I want you to look at the caption on that. Dea Schlossberg, image from Edward Snowden via Twitter.
Oh,
Now, Snowden made an interesting observation here.
that's interesting because
Yeah.
Snowden's in jail, isn't he?
Well, I honestly, I don't know where Snowden is, but the point what he said was, here is Dea Schlossberg, who is charged with 45 years worth of felonies because she reported on a protest,
Can't do that.
and he is only subject to 30 years.
Okay, yeah, yep. He's not in prison yet,
He's not in prison yet, but
but they're looking at him.
they
want to put
they
him in
want
jail.
him. And the last time I heard, was he in Sweden? I don't know. This is not
He
something.
was. I think they've kicked him out. I'm not sure because they want to get him back in the U.S. so they can prosecute.
They want to go after
He's
him.
doing his best to stay out
Yeah,
because he knows
but-
what's going to happen.
But here is this, Snowden, I think, could be charged with legitimate offenses that he may have violated. I don't know. But here, this girl, she was doing something that she had a constitutional right to do, that the United States has a constitutional guarantee that people in this country.
She was just doing her job. She was reporting
She was reporting, but she was reporting on.
something they didn't want it reported.
Yeah, and the question is, how does this happen? Well, the way that it happens is that a bunch of states have been passing laws saying that you can't do this and you can't do that, and you can't do the other thing either. And if you're going to get involved in these protests, you're going to have to pay the price. And here, Dea Schlossberg is a person who is doing this, and this is not, again, I regard myself as politically conservative. I regard people who are doing this as politically hostile to humanity, which is not conservative.
There's a quick takeaway from the article. Well, it's from the article that links to another article.
Yes.
And it says, during the extraordinary Dakota Access Pipeline protest in 2016, the state of North Dakota spent $38 million policing the demonstrators. Alarmed by the activists in North Dakota, other states quickly passed legislation designed to severely punish anyone who dared speak out against the pipelines. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
A group known as American Legislative Exchange Council, created and funded largely by the Koch brothers, was only too happy to help by drawing up model legislation designed to protect the interests
Now, I want
of
to point
pipeline
out
operators.
the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is also called ALEC,
That's the Koch brothers, yes.
is funded by the Koch brothers through their various funding
Various
organizations.
funding sources.
And they have presence in every state of the United States, and they have
They got operatives.
yeah. operatives in every state, and
They work behind
in
the
some
scenes.
in some states they have more than one group, and this is it's kind of like the committees that the Soviet Union had in the 1923-27 era, that kind of thing. I really think that the Heritage Foundation and that Freedom Partners have learned quite a lot from the Soviet Union about how to mess with people's
Well,
freedom.
didn't their father make his fortune in Russia?
Yeah, he hated the Russians and he copied what they were doing. That's my opinion.
That's pretty
Sorry.
close to reality.
Okay, we have to say goodbye.
I guess we do.
So have a perfectly lovely week. It says so right there.